September 14th, 1968. Central Highlands of South Vietnam. Con Tum Province. Dawn has not fully broken yet. The jungle is still wrapped in that gray, breathless half-light where shapes exist but refuse to resolve. Moisture hangs in the air so thick it feels chewable. Every step sinks softly into rotting leaves that have been fermenting here for decades. 6 men move single file along a barely visible ridgeline. They are an LRRP team, Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol, operating far beyond friendly lines. No artillery support, no air cover on standby, no quick extraction. Their entire survival depends on remaining unseen. The point man freezes, not because he hears something, because he doesn't. A moment ago, the jungle was alive, cicadas, distant birds, the constant hiss of insects. Now it's gone, not fading. Gone. The man at point slowly raises his fist. The rest of the patrol stops instantly, each man locking into place mid-step, mid-breath. No one looks around wildly. No one whispers. These men have trained for this. They know what silence means. The team leader, a staff sergeant with 2 previous tours, watches the canopy instead of the trail. His eyes aren't scanning for movement. He's looking for absence, branches that should sway but don't, leaves that look pressed down instead of fallen naturally. He doesn't say it out loud, but everyone knows the same thought has just landed in their heads. They've been made. LRRP teams in Vietnam rarely walked into ambushes blind. That's the myth. The truth, documented again and again in after-action reports between 1966 and 1970, is far more unsettling. Most of the time, they knew they were being hunted before the first shot was fired, the signs were subtle, and once you learned them, you never forgot. The silence is the first. The second comes seconds later. The point man notices fresh spider webs stretched across the trail, intact, undisturbed. That means no one has walked this path ahead of them recently, which is strange because this ridge line was used by North Vietnamese units moving supplies just days ago. He knows that from air photos and captured documents. So where did everyone go? The radio operator, kneeling near the rear, checks his long-range PRC-25. The handset is warm with sweat. He adjusts the antenna slightly, listening for the faint hiss of static. Instead, he hears something else, a single metallic click. Not loud, not obvious. The kind of sound you only catch when you're already listening too hard. Someone ahead just shifted a rifle. The team doesn't bunch up. They don't rush. That would be fatal. Instead, they slowly drift off the ridgeline, melting into the foliage exactly the way they were trained, 5 meters apart, eyes never meeting, hands signaling in tiny, precise motions, one finger circling, possible contact. 2 fingers down, freeze and listen. They wait. A full minute passes, sweat runs into eyes. Ants crawl inside sleeves, no one moves. Then comes the third sign. A smell. Not rot, not vegetation, wood smoke. Faint but wrong. Controlled. Cook fires that were burning hours ago, now intentionally extinguished. Someone didn't want the smoke seen after sunrise. The staff sergeant swallows slowly. He has read the reports. He has heard the veterans talk in low voices back at base. This is how it starts. Not with gunfire, with preparation. The enemy isn't reacting anymore. They're positioning. LRRP teams learned early in Vietnam that once the jungle went quiet, time worked against them. The longer they stayed in one place, the tighter the noose became. North Vietnamese and Viet Cong units didn't rush recon teams. They shadowed them, boxed them in, let them walk into terrain where escape routes disappeared. A narrow valley, a stream bed, a saddle between hills. The team leader glances at his map, then at the ground. His jaw tightens. They are standing exactly where the enemy would want them to be. He signals again. 3 fingers spread, palm down. Break contact direction south. Slowly. No one relaxes. No one thinks they're safe, because every man here understands the worst part of LRRP warfare. Once you realize you're being hunted, the hunt has already been going on for a while. And somewhere out there, unseen, unmoving, someone is watching them right now, waiting for the moment when running becomes the only option left. The jungle remains silent. That's how they know it has begun. They move south without urgency, but every step is deliberate. The point man changes direction slightly every 50 meters, not enough to look evasive, just enough to test something unseen. LRRP doctrine teaches this early. If you think you're being followed, never go straight where you plan to go. The jungle answers. A faint rustle appears off their left flank, not movement, but reaction, leaves settling too late. A branch rocking once, then stopping. Someone else is adjusting to their change of direction. That confirms it. The enemy isn't ahead. They're around them. The radio operator scribbles a quick note in a grease pencil on his waterproof pad. Later, it will match dozens of similar entries in field diaries from this war. Suspected tail, movement without contact. The team leader motions the assistant team leader forward. They kneel close enough to see each other's eyes, far enough apart that a single burst won't take both. No talking, hands only. 2 fingers tap the ground, then a slow sweep outward. They're spreading. This is the 4th sign LRRP veterans learned to fear. When contact units chased you, you heard them. When reconnaissance units shadowed you, you felt pressure. But when hunter-killer teams moved in, the jungle itself seemed to guide you, nudging you away from high ground, steering you toward gullies and streams where footprints disappeared but escape died with them. The patrol reaches a shallow ravine. The ground dips just enough to block line of sight. It looks like cover. It's a trap! The team halts again. The staff sergeant stares into the ravine, then at the slope behind them. His mind is racing through mental overlays, enemy doctrine, past missions, after-action reports read in dim tents by red flashlight. If they go down, they lose visibility. If they stay up, they silhouette themselves against the canopy. He chooses neither. Instead, he signals for a false break. The point man deliberately snaps a small branch, just enough sound to carry. Then the team shifts direction sharply east, slipping into thicker brush where movement is slower but quieter. They leave behind exactly what the enemy expects to see: disturbed ground leading into the ravine. They wait again. Second stretch. Then the jungle betrays the watchers. A bird explodes from the undergrowth, wings hammering the air. Something spooked it. Not them. Someone else. The team doesn't look back. They don't need to. The message is clear. The enemy moved to cut off their escape route, not realizing the bait. But that success brings its own danger. Now the hunters know they've been spotted. The radio operator keys his handset, barely transmitting above a whisper. He sends a coded burst, grid reference, situation uncertain, enemy suspected in force. No extraction request yet. Too early? Too obvious. Static answers him, not radio static. Human-made interference. The signal wavers unnaturally, as if something metallic is reflecting it back. Later reports will describe this again and again. Radio behavior changed before contact. The jungle didn't block transmissions. People did. The team leader feels the pressure closing. He can sense it the same way. Experienced infantrymen sense incoming artillery before the whistle, through instinct sharpened by survival. The enemy isn't rushing. They're herding. Every time the patrol slows, the jungle tightens. Every time they angle toward high ground, something unseen shifts to deny it. The LRRP team is still moving freely, but only within a shrinking box. This is the moment many veterans later described as the worst part. Not the firefight, not the extraction under fire, but this, when you know the rules have changed and the jungle is no longer neutral ground. The staff sergeant raises his fist again. The team stops. He makes the final signal. None of them wanted to see this early in the mission. A clenched fist slowly opening. Prepare to break contact. That means one thing. They are done observing. From this point forward, they are trying to survive. Somewhere ahead, the enemy is deciding when to spring the trap. And somewhere behind them, unseen boots shift softly in the leaves, close enough now that the jungle no longer bothers hiding them. The jungle exhales. It's subtle. So subtle that only men who have spent weeks moving through hostile terrain would notice it. A pressure release. The sense of being guided fades, replaced by something sharper. Expectation. The staff sergeant feels it first. That tightening in the chest that doesn't come from fear but from certainty. The hunt has reached its final phase. They're about to be fixed in place. He signals again, this time faster. The team fans out just a little wider, each man finding a piece of cover without breaking the visual chain. A fallen log, a termite mound, a cluster of thick roots clawing out of the ground. Everyone drops their rucksack straps halfway, ready to shed weight in an instant. The point man stares ahead. Nothing moves. And that's wrong. In Vietnam, when enemy units prepared to initiate contact, they didn't chatter. They didn't rush. They froze. Weapons up, sectors covered, waiting for the recon team to step into the kill zone on its own. The point man spots it then. A straight line where no straight line should exist. Not a trail, not a route. A faint horizontal break in the undergrowth, eye level when prone. Someone has been lying there recently. Vegetation pressed down by a human body, not time. He raises 2 fingers, then taps his helmet. Enemy in position. The radio operator's breathing slows until it's almost imperceptible. He adjusts his grip on the handset, thumb hovering near the transmit switch. He knows from experience that once the shooting starts, he may get 3 seconds, 5 at best, to call for help. The jungle answers with its final signal, a distant single cough. Not human. Forced, deliberate. A sound used in North Vietnamese units to signal readiness without radio. It carries just far enough to be heard by men who are already listening too hard. The staff sergeant doesn't wait anymore. He signals break contact. Now. The LRRP team explodes into motion. Smoke grenades bloom almost instantly, thick white clouds punching holes in the jungle's perfect visibility. The team doesn't run straight. They scatter in rehearsed angles, each man moving to pull fire away from the others. The first shot cracks through the air a half-second later. Not wild, not panicked, aimed. It snaps past where the team leader's head was moments ago and buries itself in a tree with a sound like an axe strike. Automatic fire follows, not a spray, but short, controlled bursts meant to pin, not kill. They wanted the patrol alive long enough to finish the job properly. The LRRP team answers with noise and aggression, everything designed to convince the enemy they've stumbled into something bigger than 6 men. Claymores detonate behind them, ripping through foliage and shredding the illusion of safe pursuit. The jungle erupts, branches shatter, dirt kicks up, leaves rain down like shredded paper. The smell of cordite mixes with rot and smoke until breathing feels like swallowing metal. The radio operator gets his window. He keys the mic and transmits, voice steady despite the chaos. Contact! Heavy! Grid follows! Rounds snap overhead. One slams into the dirt inches from his knee. He finishes the transmission anyway. Then he's moving again, dragging the antenna low to avoid giving away their direction. The team is no longer being herded. Now they are being chased. But even as they move, every man understands something that won't fully register until years later, when it's written in reports and spoken quietly to younger soldiers. The ambush didn't begin with the first shot. It began with silence, with missing spiderwebs, with the jungle steering them where it wanted. By the time the guns opened up, the enemy had already been hunting them for hours. And for an LRRP team in Vietnam, that realization, the moment you knew you were being hunted, was often the most terrifying part of the war. The jungle is no longer silent. It screams. Automatic fire chases the LRRP team through the undergrowth, snapping branches and chewing into tree trunks as they move downhill, away from the ridgeline they should have held. They're not thinking about observation anymore. They're thinking in meters, in seconds. The staff sergeant counts them automatically as they move. 1, 2, 3 eyes, locking briefly, checking for blood, for lag, for the subtle stumble that means someone has been hit and hasn't admitted it yet. Everyone is still moving. That matters more than anything. They hit a narrow stream bed, water splashing just enough to erase footprints without slowing them. Another small choice pulled straight from field manuals and bitter experience. The enemy will expect them to follow the stream. They won't. The team breaks hard left, climbing through thick bamboo that rips at sleeves and skin. Movement slows, but concealment increases. Rounds still come through sporadically, more sound than accuracy now. The radio operator transmits again. This time the answer comes back, a calm voice, almost casual. Roger. Birds inbound. 10 mics. 10 minutes. In LRRP terms, that's an eternity. The enemy knows it too. Fire intensifies, not blindly, but purposefully. Bursts walk across likely exit routes. A grenade detonates behind them, showering the bamboo with dirt and fragments. Someone shouts in Vietnamese, sharp and clipped. They're coordinating. The staff sergeant signals another turn, then another. He's burning through his mental map, looking for terrain that favors delay over distance. He finds it in a shallow draw lined with fallen trees. They make their stand there, not to fight, but to slow. Claymores go out again. this time angled carefully, wires hidden under mud and leaves. When they detonate, the effect is immediate. Screams cut through the gunfire. The pursuing force checks itself, reorganizing before pushing again. That pause saves lives. Rotor noise begins to bleed into the chaos. At first it's barely audible, just a tremor in the air. Then it grows, chopping through the jungle's din like a promise from another world. The extraction birds are coming. The LRRP team pops smoke again, purple this time, the prearranged color. The smoke rises fast, visible from above, a beacon that says, "We are here, for now." Enemy fire surges toward it instantly. They knew this would happen. The team spreads one last time, drawing fire away from the landing zone. The staff sergeant fires in controlled bursts, not to hit, but to be seen. Every round he draws is one not aimed at the helicopters. The rotors are deafening now. Trees bend, leaves whirl into the air. The jungle fights the intrusion with everything it has. One by one, the men move. No heroics, no speeches, just motion, discipline, survival. The last man up is the team leader. He backs toward the rope ladder, eyes never leaving the tree line. He feels it again. That certainty. They were never surprised today. They were chosen. The helicopter lifts violently, banking away as rounds crack through the space it just occupied. Below, the jungle closes, erasing everything within seconds. By the time the birds are gone, there is no sign anyone was ever there. Later, in debriefings and quiet conversations, the men will talk about the moment they knew. Not the firefight, not the extraction, but the silence, the way the jungle stopped being alive. That's how LRRP teams in Vietnam learned the truth, written in reports, diaries, and memory. You didn't walk into ambushes, you walked into hunts, and if you were good enough, lucky enough, and fast enough, you lived long enough to recognize the signs.